Well, I think we have a better idea where the Calgary Flames are in terms of are they a contender or not in the 2021-22 season. And also, we'll throw in some All-Star content in this episode. You know what I mean? This is time for another episode of... Hi there, it's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to another episode of my Calgary Flames at 6. Here you're up to episode number 8 in season number 4, as we'll talk about games 37 to 42 of the 2021-22 NHL regular season. So we're about the halfway point of the regular season. And I'm going to say we definitely have an idea where the Flames are at in terms of where they stand in the rest of the league. I say the last episode where we took on top contenders. I do not think we are there yet. However, given the strength of the schedule and how much, quick travels that were involved in this schedule for this episode, I think we have a better idea where they rank in terms of where they are in the league. So before I bring up my notes and recap the past 6 games and the All-Star game, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and I also do have my second channel in Brett Hornby Shorts as well, so I appreciate like, subscribe both here on my main channel as well as my second channel. And here we are in the All-Star weekend. Didn't mean to make this video a few days earlier, but things come up, and then when it's finally the weekend, a lot of time you're just feel you're out of gas as it is, and I just figured I might as well put the All-Star game in, and here I am. So at least I'm getting the video up right now. So to take a look at the past 6 games, well, the first episode, the game we'll talk about in this episode, will be game 37. This happened on Monday, January 24th, as the Calgary Flames were hosting the St. Louis Blues, and this was right after when they lost a tough one against the Edmonton Oilers. And I would say this one definitely showed the Calgary Flames might have had a little chip on their shoulder in this one. So it didn't start off like it was going to be a big win for the Calgary Flames, as in the first period, Tyler Bozak scored the first goal for the St. Louis Blues. This was at the 5:10 minute mark of the first period. To make it 1-0, it was his third of the season. However, just under a minute later, the Calgary Flames tied it up, as it was Nikita Zadorov who got his third of the season at 6:01. So we had a tie game at 1-1 at that point. However, it seemed like after that, the Calgary Flames started really pouring on the offense against the St. Louis Blues, as the next goal of the game went to Chris Tanev, as he got his second of the season. This happened at the 12:46 minute mark of the first period. So Calgary now took a 2-1 lead at that point. And then 3 minutes later, exactly 3 minutes later, at 15:46 of the first period, it was Lars Lindholm who scored his 13th of the season on a power play. So Calgary had a 3-1 lead at that point, and that's actually how things stood after the first period. Calgary up 3-1. As now we'll move on to the second period, and I definitely will say more of the Calgary Flames offense continued on, as early in the second period, at the 3:24 minute mark of the second period, it was Sean Monahan who scored on the power play. Maybe he's going to finally start picking up. He got his 7th of the season, so Calgary now took a 4-1 lead. And then Calgary continued adding onto it later in the period, as it was Blake Coleman who got his 8th of the season at the 14:11 minute mark of the second period. So now Calgary took a 5-1 lead. And then at 16:09, it was Adam Ruzicka who got his 2nd of the season to make it 6-1. And then with 19:36 of the second period, just in the final minute, the Calgary Flames scored yet another one, as it was Johnny Gaudreau who got his 16th of the season to make it 7-1, and that's how things stood after the second period, as the Calgary Flames were up 7-1 in this one, and ultimately Troy chased Jordan Binnington out of the net. There was no scoring to report in the third period as things settled down. So ultimately, the Calgary won this one convincingly, 7-1 against the St. Louis Blues at home. So definitely was a big statement game for the Calgary Flames, as they definitely had a tough one against the Edmonton Oilers, but St. Louis is not one of those teams that were a slouch either. So when it comes to the shots and goal, the Calgary Flames did outshoot the St. Louis Blues 48-21 in this one. So leading the way for the Calgary Flames, it was definitely a big game for Johnny Gaudreau, as now he had that goal. He had 3 assists for 4 points. Matthew Tkachuk, he had 5 assists in this one, so he definitely was all over the ice in this one. So those are the two players that led the way for the Calgary Flames. You can also throw in Nikita Zadorov with a goal and assist. And then when it comes to the goaltending story of the game, well, Jacob Markstrom, you only need to make 20 saves for Calgary. Well, St. Louis, no one stood out with the multiple game with the only goal by Tyler Belzak. Well, it was Jordan Binnington. He made 28 saves, and he allowed 7 goals in the 2 periods. And then it was Ville Husso, who has definitely been starting a goaltending controversy for the St. Louis Blues. He made 11 saves the rest of the way for the St. Louis Blues. So that was just the one game that the Calgary Flames had at home to start off this episode. So the next couple of games the Calgary Flames have, they're on the road. So that was game 37. So game 38, this happened on Wednesday, January the 26th, as the Calgary Flames were on the road to take on the Columbus Blue Jackets. This was 2 games in 2 nights, and let's just say the Calgary Flames, they set a franchise record in this game. What record did they set? Well, let's find out. But the Calgary Flames definitely continued on swinging after their big win against the St. Louis Blues. Well, the first period, the only goal went to Calgary, as it went to Michael Backlund, who got his 5th of the season at the 4:21 minute mark. So Calgary had a 1-0 lead after the first period. And also to note that in the first period, the Calgary Flames outshot the Columbus Blue Jackets 16-9, but let's say they had a few more shots after that. So going into the second period, it wasn't until the 14 minute mark of the second period, when it was Andrew Mangiapane who scored his 19th of the season, and that made it 2-0 for Calgary. And then with literally 6 seconds to go into the second period, Calgary made it 3-0, as it was Matthew Tkachuk scored his 19th of the season. So Calgary took a 2-3-0 lead after the second period, and Calgary outshot the Columbus Blue Jackets 23-8 in the second period alone. So they were definitely taking a lot of shots. It was the Flames that were firing cannons instead of the Columbus Blue Jackets in this game. So now going into the third period, it was Elias Lindholm who scored his 14th of the season 30 seconds in to make it 4-0 for Calgary. And then there was Erik Branson, who actually got his first goal of the season at the 6:55 minute mark of the third period to make it 5-0 for Calgary. And then Matthew Tkachuk, who got his second of the game and 20th of the season at the 7:36 minute mark. So Calgary took this one 6-0 at that point, and ultimately took this game 6-0. And they also outshot the Columbus Blue Jackets 23-6 in the third period alone, for a total of 62-23. Yeah, the Calgary Flames took 62 shots in this game, which sets a new franchise record for the Calgary Flames, including the Atlanta Days. So it was 62 shots that the Calgary Flames took, and I think it was the first time in over 20 years that a team took over 60 shots in a game. So Calgary definitely was shooting the puck and firing cannons at the Columbus Blue Jackets in this one. So leading the way for the Calgary Flames in this one, well, Johnny Gaudreau actually led the way with 3 assists, and then Matthew Tkachuk had 2 goals for the 2 points. So those are the 2 multi-point games. No one obviously stood up for the Columbus Blue Jackets offensively, but I'm going to say one goalie definitely was a big reason why it was only 6-0. Well, Jacob Markstrom, he made 23 saves in the shutout for the Calgary Flames, while it was Elvis Merzlikins who made 56 saves for the Columbus Blue Jackets in the loss. So I think if it wasn't for him, it could have been like a 10, 11, or 12-0 game, because he still had a 903 save percentage, considering he faced 60 shots from the Calgary Flames. So that was game 38, as the Calgary Flames set a new franchise record for 60 shots on net. So game 39, this happened the next night on Thursday, January the 27th, as the Calgary Flames were taking on the St. Louis Blues, this time in St. Louis, and so at the Enterprise Center. 6 p.m. puck drop. As I mentioned, the game before was at Nationwide Arena for a 5 p.m. puck drop. So what was in store in this game after when the Calgary Flames blew out the St. Louis Blues at home? Well, I'm going to say this one kind of, wouldn't say it was a surprise, but it was kind of the opposite of what happened on Monday night, as it was the St. Louis Blues were seeking revenge. So opening up the scoring for the game was Brendan Saad for the St. Louis Blues. This happened at the 6:15 minute mark. So St. Louis took a 1-0 lead, but that's how things opened up in the first game, with St. Louis scoring the first goal. And then Michael Backlund, he actually tied it up for Calgary at 10:34 to make it a 1-1 at that point. However, Brendan Saad struck again for the St. Louis Blues for his second of the season, 10th of the season, or Brayden Schenn, I should say. As Brendan Saad eventually did score a second goal, but Brayden Schenn got his 10th goal of the season. This was at 13:59 of the first period. So St. Louis took a 2-1 lead, and that's how things stood after the first period, with St. Louis up 2-1. And then, as mentioned, Brendan Saad, who did get his second goal of the season. This happened at the 9:57 minute mark, his 15th of the season, to make it 3-1, and that was the only goal for the game. So St. Louis took a 3-1 lead at that point, going into the third period. And then going into the third period, well, the St. Louis Blues definitely was able to put this away, get some revenge on the Calgary Flames, as it's Jordan Kyrou, who got his 17th of the season at 4:10 of the third period to make it 4-1. And then ultimately it was Ryan O'Reilly who really put this one away for his 10th of the season to make it 5-1 at 18:59 of the third period on a power play. So ultimately it was the St. Louis Blues. They won this one 5-1 after they took that one on the chin 7-1 at home earlier in the week. So kind of not surprised that it played out that way, but it's just interesting how sometimes things work that way. So no one stood out with a multi-point game for the Calgary Flames, obviously with just the one goal. And it was Jacob Markstrom, who still was in net for this one. He made 23 saves for Calgary. Well, it comes to the St. Louis Blues, it was Brayden Schenn, who had a goal and 2 assists, and Brian Saad lead the way with 2 goals and an assist. So those are the 2 players that had a multi-point game for the Calgary Flames. And it was Ville Husso, who was in net for the St. Louis Blues. He definitely shone, as he made 28 saves for St. Louis. So St. Louis did get some revenge, I would say, after we get blown out the earlier in the week on the road. So that was game number 39 against the St. Louis Blues. So game 40, this was on Saturday, January the 29th, as the Calgary Flames were back at home, hosting against the Vancouver Canucks on Hockey Night in Canada. And I'm going to say this game definitely was one reason why it was played out the way it did. If we can just cut to the chase, well, there was no scoring in the first 3 periods. The game remained scoreless until going into overtime. However, the Calgary Flames definitely were not for the lack of effort. They outshot the Vancouver Canucks 7-1 in the first period, 13-8 in the second period, and 11-6 in the third period. So going into overtime, we had a nothing game. And ultimately, who scored the winner for this game? Well, it was Johnny Gaudreau, who actually ultimately scored the winner on a turnover 29 seconds in on a slap shot for his 17th of the season. So ultimately, the Calgary Flames won this one 1-0 on a very, very dominant performance However, it was only the one goal that was it, as it was the reason why Calgary was able to only win this one 1-0. Well, Jacob Markstrom, he got his 7th shutout of the season, making only 15 saves. However, Thatcher Demko, he definitely stood on his head. For the Vancouver Canucks, he made 31 saves. So that's all I have for the summary for Game 40, as there was only one goal and it didn't happen until overtime. So that was Game 40 against the Vancouver Canucks. So Game 41, this is to start off February. The Calgary Flames now we're back on the road for a couple of games. This one's against the Dallas Stars at the American Airlines Arena. That was a 6:30 puck drop. And how did things go for the Calgary Flames in Dallas? Well, things actually did start off fairly quickly for the Dallas Stars in a way, but Calgary did start off with the goal, as it was Trevor Lewis who got his 4th goal of the season at the 154-minute mark to make it 1-0 for Calgary. However, Dallas, they definitely got back on the board and then ultimately took the lead. First, it was the first goal of the season for Joel Henley for Dallas, who got it at the 426-minute mark to make it a 1-1 game at that point. And then Dallas ultimately took a 2-1 lead late in the first period, as it was Joel Robertson who got his 17th, or Jason Robertson who got his 17th goal of the season to make it 2-1 for Dallas. And that's how things stood after the first period, as Dallas had a 2-1 lead. And then going into the second period, there was only one goal in this one, and that went to Dallas. And that went to Jamie Benn, his 11th of the season, at 11:20. So Dallas took a 3-1 lead, and that's how things stood after the second period. Dallas up 3-1, as Dallas definitely came out firing in the second period after Calgary had a strong first period, but were on the wrong end of the scoreboard. However, the third period, this is where things got very interesting, as the Calgary Flames were definitely outplaying the Dallas Stars, and they definitely needed to be patient in this one, and I would say eventually they got rewarded. But it wasn't until the 14:36-minute mark of the third period that Calgary got within one, as it was Andrew Mangiapane who got his 20th goal of the season. As I said, 14:36 to make it a 3-2 game for Dallas at that point. However, then just under a minute later, it was Johnny Gaudreau at 15:13 of the third period, tied it up for the Calgary Flames. So not just like that, we have a 3-3 game at this point, and it looked like maybe this game was destined to be going to overtime, as Dallas, I felt like at this point, were just hanging on. However, the Calgary Flames definitely had other plans. It was Oliver Shillington. Defenseman Oliver Shillington did score at the 18:13-minute mark of the third period, his 5th of the season. So Calgary actually came back to now take a 4-3 lead. Definitely held on, and Calgary, they ultimately stole this one with a dominant third period by coming back and scoring 3 goals in the final 6 minutes of the third period to come back from 3-1 down to win this one 4-3. Definitely huge. I would say, if you look at the standings maybe down the season, that it wasn't a 3-point game after all. So Calgary won this one in a very, very dramatic fashion, 4-3, and they also shot the Dallas Stars 40-28 in this one. So leading the way for the Calgary Flames, was the only one who had a multi-point game for the Calgary Flames was Elias Lindholm with the 2 assists, and no one had a multi-point game for the Dallas Stars. So when it comes to the goaltending in this one, well, it was actually Jacob Markstrom who made 20 saves for the Calgary Flames. However, Dan Vidar did play some relief, and he made 5 saves, as he did play 20 minutes in this one. So I think he played in the third period, and then if I remember, and then for the Dallas Stars, it was Jason Ottinger who was in net for the Jake Ottinger was in net for the Dallas Stars. He made 36 saves in that one. So the Calgary Flames definitely got a big come from behind victory. Something to look forward to going down the stretch drive. So that was game 41. So game 42, this will be the last game in this episode before we move on to other business, as the Calgary Flames the next night were taking on the Arizona Coyotes. This was a 7:30 p.m. puck drop at the Gala River Arena, and this is definitely one of these games that if the Calgary Flames were to make playoffs, these are one of the games that they have to get, and I would say they definitely delivered on that one. So in the first period, it was the Calgary Flames who got the first goal in this one. First, it was Blake Coleman who got his 9th goal of the season. This happened at the 2:58-minute mark. So Calgary took a 1-0 lead at that point. However, the Arizona Coyotes in this one, they did strike back when they did. First, it was Alex Galchenyuk who got the second of the season to top the game at 8:34. So we had a 1-1 game at that point in the first period. However, Elias Lindholm, he did score his 15th of the season late in the first period with 10 seconds to go at 19:50. So Calgary took a 2-1 lead at that point of the first period. Then going into the second period, well, Clayton Keller did tie it up for the Arizona Coyotes, his 17th of the season, at the 4:14-minute mark of the second period to make it 2-2. However, Chris Tanev, he definitely had a big game in this one, did score his 3rd of the season. This happened at the 15:15-minute mark of the second period. So Calgary took a 3-2 lead at that point. And that's how things stood after the second period. Calgary taking a 3-2 lead. And then Blake Coleman, who got his 2nd of the game, his 10th of the season. This happened at the 12:06-minute mark of the third period. So Calgary ultimately won this one 4-2 and ultimately got the result they deserved, as they were the better team in this one, as they won this one 4-2. Well, Calgary didn't take as many shots against the Arizona Coyotes as they did against the Columbus Blue Jackets. However, they still outshot the Arizona Coyotes 50-28, including the Calgary Flames shooting 26 in the first period alone. There was also a fight we should also highlight in this one, as that was at the 10:40-minute mark of the first period. It was Eric Gudbranson who had a fight with Liam O'Brien. So those are the other excitements that we can mention in this game. So leading the way for the Calgary Flames, well, Chris Tanev was in a part of all 4 goals, as he had a goal and 3 assists for 4 points. And then Blake Coleman had 2 goals and 1 assist for 3 points. And Andrew Mangiapane had 2 assists for the Calgary Flames. For the Arizona Coyotes, there was Clayton Keller, who was the only multi-point getter with 1 goal and 1 assist. So when it comes to the goaltending story of the game, well, Jacob Markstrom, he made 26 saves for Calgary in the win. Well, in the Arizona Coyotes, it was, let's see if I find his name is Carl Velicchio, if I get it right. He made 46 saves for the Arizona Coyotes. So that was the Calgary Flames in 6 so far, as after 42 games. They are 23-13-6 after 42 games, and they have 52 points, and they're 4th in the Pacific Division. However, when it comes to point percentage, because there have been a lot of imbalanced games with all the postponements match, the Calgary Flames point percentage is .619, which would put them 2nd in the Pacific Division. So I'm going to say we are still looking pretty good for the Calgary Flames at this point. So now, when it comes to looking at the other records, well, the Calgary Flames, this is definitely going to be a big story going in if they're going to make the playoffs or not. Well, at home, they're 7-4-4. Although they have won the last 3 at home, on the road, they are 16-9-2. So if the Calgary Flames can play as well at home as they have on the road, I am going to say we should definitely make the playoffs. And I think how the Calgary Flames have looked in this episode, I think we are good enough that we should make the playoffs. So that's all I have for this. So let's move on to the All-Star game, shall we? So I'll throw this in here. This will replace the stats and standings for this episode, as we'll talk about the All-Star game instead, and we'll get back into stats and standings in the next episode, especially when teams will be playing more catch-up. So for the All-Star game, there was the skills competition that happened the day before the games. So the fastest skater ultimately went to Jordan Carter of the St. Louis Blues. He had 13.550 seconds. And then the save streak was saved between Jack Campbell for the Toronto Maple Leafs and Andrei Vasilevsky, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Each had 9. Then there was the breakaway challenge that Alex Pietrangelo of Vegas Golden Knights, had 64 points. I think that's the judged event. And then shooting accuracy with the 4 pucks or the 4 targets. That went to Sebastian Aho of the Carolina Hurricanes. He had 10.937 seconds. That was the event that Johnny Gaudreau participated in. I think he finished 4th in that. And then they had special skills, which they had a fountain face-off that Zach Werenski of the Columbus Blue Jackets. He had 25.634. And then I saw the 21 and 22, which they had a couple players, 5 players participating in that, and they were kind of playing blackjack and shooting pucks at the oversized cards. Well, ultimately it was Joe Pavelski who was the best at the 21 and 22 for the Dallas Stars. I know it was Steven Stamkos, Austin Matthews, Nazem Kadri, as well as Brady Tkachuk was all participating, if I remember, the 5 players that participated. So definitely had some Vegas, themed contests. And then when it comes to the games itself, which I'm going to say the All-Star game at this stage is just a glorified 3-on-3 pond hockey tournament. So the first game, he had the Metropolitan taking on the Pacific Division. Well, the Metropolitan won this one 6-4, so they can move on to the championship game. In game 2, you had the Atlantic Division versus the Central Division. Well, the Central Division won this one 8-5, so game 3 was the championship game, where you had the Central and the Metropolitan, and it was the Central Division that won over the Metropolitan 5-3, and ultimately called Giroux of the Philadelphia Flyers. He got the MVP for the All-Star game, so I'll throw in the All-Star game just because I did put off this episode that I might as well wait till that was done. So that is the All-Star game and the Calgary Flames in 6. So now let's move on to other business, as we'll do the Stockton Heat quick hits. So here's the Stockton Heat quick hits for our farm team. So the Stockton Heat quick hits, well, considering I waited till the All-Star game was done, I was able to capture 3 more games for the Stockton Heat, and I'm going to say things are still looking pretty good for the Stockton Heat on the farm at this point. So this will be game 36. This was on Saturday, January 29th, as the Stockton Heat were at home against the Ontario Reign, which is the LA Kings farm team. This was a 7 p.m. puck drop at the Stockton Arena. Stockton won that game 2-1. Luke Phillip and Matthew Phillips each had a goal in this one. And then the controversial story in this one was Yusuf Alamaki. He got a misconduct for an abusive official, which suspended him for 3 games. But I looked at it and was like, that's where you have to question, was it warranted that? And then Justin Kirkland, who played in his 300th AHL game. So those are the other couple other storylines in that one. And Dustin Wolf made 32 saves for Stockton. So the next game was game 37. This was on Thursday, February the 3rd, as the Stockton Heat were on the road. They were taking on the Abbotsford Canucks. Obviously the Vancouver Canucks farm team at the Abbotsford Centre, which actually is the same place where the Stockton Heat or the Abbotsford Heat used to play. This was an 8 p.m. puck drop, and ultimately it was a big win for the Stockton Heat as they won 7-3. Matthew Phillips scored 3 goals for the hat-trick. Luke Phillip had 2 goals, and Jacob Belche had a goal and assist. And then Martin Pospisil and Walker Durer each had 2 assists. So a lot of points going around this one. And also mention that Connor Zary, he had a misconduct with Carson Fook in an incident. Former hitman Carson Fook. So there was a little bit of that. Maybe they have a grudge from junior hockey that they had to settle in this one. And then game 38, this was on Friday, February 4th, as the Stockton Heat were in Abbotsford again, taking on the Abbotsford Canucks. At 8 p.m. puck shop, the Abbotsford Centre, and the Stockton Heat won that one 2-1 this time. It was Matthew Phillips and Jacob Pelche each had a goal, and Glenn Godwin had 2 assists, and Dustin Wolf made 36 saves. So how does the Stockton Heat look in the American Hockey League? Well, after 36 games, or 38 games, I should say, they are 26-7-3-1 for 56 points, which puts them first in the American Hockey League's Pacific Division. So the top 5 scorers for the Stockton Heat, Matthew Phillips leads the way. After 34 games, he has 18 goals, 19 assists for 37 points. Jacob Pelche second, 36 games. He has 14 goals, 22 assists for 36 points. And then in third place is the Glenn Godwin. 35 games, he has 12 goals, 23 assists for 35 points. Excuse me. And then fourth scorer is Luke Phillip. 35 games, he has 11 goals, 12 assists for 23 points. And then picked to score is the top scoring defenseman is Connor Mackey. In 36 games, he has 5 goals, 15 assists for 20 points. So that's the top 5, how it looks with the Stockton Heat right now. Goaltending, well, Dustin Wolf still definitely has incredible numbers. In 24 games, he has 19 wins, 2 losses, and 3 overtime losses for the 201 goals against average and 934 save percentage. And then Adam Werner is the backup. In 12 games, he has 7 wins, 4 losses, 1 overtime, 1 shootout loss for 291 goals against average and an 892 save percentage. So that is the Stockton Heat quick hits. So now looking ahead, this will be the next 6 games for the Calgary Flames, and all 6 games are going to be all at home and all playing catch-up. As originally, if things go when it was planned, this is when the winter, Olympic break would have happened, but then, things happened in December. So all those games that, got postponed in December and January are going to start getting made up right now. So game 43, this will be the next game for the Calgary Flames. Will be on Wednesday, February the 9th, as the Calgary Flames will be hosting the Vegas Golden Knights. There will be a 7 p.m. buck drop at the Scotiabank Saddledome. Definitely a big Pacific Division matchup. That game was the game that was originally rescheduled from Saturday, January the 15th. So game 44, this will be on Tuesday, February the 10th, as the Calgary Flames will be hosting the Toronto Maple Leafs, one of the top teams in the league at this point, at the 7 p.m. puck drop at the Scotiabank Saddledome. That game was a game that was rescheduled from Thursday, December the 16th. And then game 45, this will be on Saturday, February the 12th, which is why the Roughnecks game got moved to the night before, as the Calgary Flames will be hosting the New York Islanders. That'll be on Hockey Night Canada, 8 p.m. puck drop at Scotiabank Saddledome. That's the game that was originally rescheduled from Tuesday, January the 11th. And then game 46, this will be on Tuesday, February the 15th, as the Calgary Flames will be hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets. So it'll be 7 p.m. puck drop at Scotiabank Saddledome. That game was originally rescheduled from Saturday, December the 18th. And game 47, this will be on Wednesday, February the 16th, as the Calgary Flames will be hosting the Anaheim Ducks. The one thing I forget to mention that with the Anaheim Ducks this season, that's where Jeff Ford is now, the former head coach of the Calgary Flames. He is on the coaching staff for the Anaheim Ducks. So that game, it'll be a 7:30 puck drop on Wednesday, February 16th. That game was originally rescheduled from Tuesday, December the 21st. And then game 48, this will be on Saturday, February the 19th, as the Calgary Flames will be hosting the Seattle Kraken. So I guess Mark Giordano will make his return to the Saddledome on Saturday, February the 19th. 8 p.m. puck drop at Scotiabank Saddledome. That game was originally rescheduled from Thursday, December the 23rd. So 6 of the 10 games that have been postponed will happen in the next episode. All of them at home. So hopefully the Calgary Flames can make some hay at home. And then the Stockton Heat also have a couple games that will capture in the next episode. So game 39, this will be on Friday, February 11th. The Stockton Heat will be hosting the Ontario Reign. That will be at 8 p.m. puck drop at the Stockton Arena. Game 40 will be on Saturday, February 12th, as the Stockton Heat will have another game against the Ontario Reign. 7 p.m. puck drop at the Stockton Arena. And game 41, this will be on Saturday, February the 19th, as the Stockton Heat will be on the road. They'll be taking on the Bakerfield Condors at the Cass Bank Arena at 8 p.m. So that is looking ahead. So as I say, to wrap up this episode of my Calgary Flames of 6, I'm going to say after the last episode where they took on tougher teams in the league, I think the Calgary Flames are a good team. I just don't think right now we're not there yet to be at the upper echelon to take on, let's say, Carolina, Tampa Bay, or Florida, or Colorado, or even Vegas in the playoffs. Like, we're not that level. Although I do expect this team to make the playoffs, especially if they can make hay at home. But we'll see how things go in the next episode with all the games at home playing catch-up with a mixture of strong teams and other teams that we should win to be considered a playoff team. So anyway, as I say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly do talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel where I recap games and stories, which I recently did with the Calgary Flames. But I also do a variety of non-sports content, which the keywords are is when I've had time, which hasn't seemed to be much of lately. I've been barely having time to make these videos. But I do have personal blogs, attempt at comedy, and I also do share my experience I'm on the road to Spider-Man, and I do some blogging to go, which did plan to take in some Chinook Blast, but I'll wait till later in the month when I'll have more time to take in more activities in a short time, so expect that to come later this month on my channel. And I do have a couple of video series planned that I'm planning to do this year, so if you like and subscribe, you know what those couple of video series are, and as I say, I have my other social links down in the description below, so if that sounds like be interested to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, you know what you do, just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and of course I have my second channel in Brett Hornby Shorts, where I exclusively put my short form content on there, like for example, a quick post game of the Calgary Flames when they wrap up their game. Of course, with many of these games being at home and my work schedule being is, during the week games will definitely be delayed till the next day for my reasons with my work schedule. So I just want to say, go Flames go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.